Are you ready for a more global anime market? Because that's what's coming, and it's coming sooner rather than later. I've talked about this a few times, and I just want to show you this nice little chart they have here in this article. 48% of the money that comes into Japan's animation industry is from overseas. That's a big number. And as that increases, the influence from overseas interests is going to creep more into that industry. The nice thing about like Japanese animation and manga and such is they can tell pretty much whatever stories they want. Anybody that's been watching Redo of Healer knows that. Imagine if that show came out over here. Like if that was a Western, well, first off, it could never happen. But imagine if some like ballsy studio was like, I'm gonna make the show with the same plot. I don't even think I can talk about the plot of Redo of Healer without getting like this video in trouble or at least demonetized. I'm just saying, imagine if they wanted to show that. Hell, imagine Shield Hero or the first episode of Goblin Slayer. Like you'd never be able to tell those stories in a Western studio. The nice thing about Japan is, well, they're just bringing it over here. The most that can happen is some whiny people on Twitter will bitch about it, and that's always fun to make fun of because it really goes against some stuff that they say, like, you know, colonizing and pushing their values on another culture. They think that it's okay as long as, well, you know, it's in their moral right. When that's from their Western perspective, things are a little bit different over in the East. But anyway, a lot of good stuff in here about particularly how Sony's pushing themselves to become a big influencer in the anime market. This started really a while ago, but they've really made the push when they gobbled up Crunchyroll from Time Warner, AT&T. They paid like $1.2 billion for Crunchyroll, which gave them all of the anime that was available for streaming on there. Sony's pretty much now the most dominant force in the West when it comes to anime. And from what I understand, they've been doing this in other markets as well, and this is giving them tremendous influence. So this should scare you a little bit. Anyone that's followed the Naughty Dog trash or knows where Sony is located, remember Sony Entertainment's headquarters isn't located in Japan anymore. Oh no, all that's located in the Bay Area of California now. So that should worry you a little bit because remember what Sony's been doing with the PlayStation brand as a whole. If you want to put anime girls on there, they better be dressed like they're from the 1940s and be completely covered up, or the game's going to get censored. Meanwhile, games like Naughty Dog, you know, like Naughty Dog's Last of Us 2, that can have Abby running around getting bent over on a houseboat, and that's all good. That's just fine. Are you ready for Abby, the new waifu? Because that's what you're going to get, big muscular armed women. And if you think that that's not going to happen, you're being stupid. Because they've already talked about they want to have more influence on this stuff. Viz has talked about it. They've been trying to get in meetings for a while. Funimation is already paying for some people in Japan. They're sitting on boards now over there. If you don't think that they're going to have influence over what's being produced over there, you're a fool. And they even admit it right here in this article in the last paragraph. It's a very good article. I read through the whole thing, but it's too long to do a whole video on, and I don't want to just read through it. But listen to this. This is really interesting, and this kind of lines up everything that we've all been saying, because I'm not the only channel that talks about this. We've known for a long time that Japanese IP resonates throughout Asia, but I think it's becoming more and more clear the degree to which these IP can really work wonders in terms of sales of digital content and merchandise, says CLSA analyst Jay Defbro, citing the ways in which IP owned by Japanese toy and game groups like Konami and Bandai Namco have scored resounding recent success in China. For Toei and other large anime studios leading the industry as a whole, overseas revenues are poised to overtake domestic for the first time. Global ambitions, with a particular focus on the growth of potential in China and Asia, are underpinned by a rising sophistication among Japanese anime executives. The investment and development consortium behind Demon Slayer involved only 3 companies, a striking contrast with the larger, more conservative and unwildly 10 through 12 strong consortiums that would traditionally have been drawn up. It is difficult to operate a business solely in Japan anymore, says Production IG's Mr. Wada. Instead of a 2-stage process where we deliver titles that were hits in Japan to the rest of the world, we must now focus on content that will resonate not only in Japan, but internationally. And that's the big takeaway from this entire article. A lot of companies are taking notice to how profitable anime is because, for one, anime has a very, very, very strong community behind it. You look at the conventions with the cosplayers, the fans, the merchandise that sells. How many people do you see running around with like shirts with anime characters on it? I see it just about every time I go out anymore, which isn't as much as I used to because of, there's not really much to do right now. But you would see it a lot. The video games, the merchandise they talk about in this article about how, they've got a Demon Slayer product for everything. Demon Slayer noodles, Demon Slayer clothing, Demon Slayer statue. Like, there's money to be made outside of the product itself. That's why it's a very profitable thing. That's why piracy can't really damage. It doesn't damage anime manga because they make so much money in merchandising that it offsets it. That's why you can get Shonen Jump for $2. That's why you can get the entire library of Shonen Jump for $2 a month, because the merchandise, they have it right here, 23% of their revenue comes from merchandising. Okay, so they don't really care if you're pirating it because they're still bringing in so much money anyway with statues, toys, and video games of these characters that it doesn't matter. And people are taking notice of that. Finally. Well, I'm surprised it didn't happen a long time ago, but now a lot of these markets are seeing anime as much more lucrative. Netflix has got a whole team. They've got a whole department devoted to researching this stuff. Like, I did a video on that a long time ago. Amazon is making statements, even in this article, about how they're committed to that future, and if you like that, get ready because they've got more coming. So, as more money flows in from America, or the West in particular, to Japan, influence is going to gather. And while for a while, I think this will produce some pretty cool stuff, eventually what's going to happen? Especially with Sony being such a dominant force. They've openly said they want to be a big dominant force in anime. So what does that mean? Well, how's that going to look when you've got Bay Area dictating what's going to go on with anime? It's going to start to get influence. A lot of Japanese executives are going to walk into their board meeting one day and there's going to be some purple-haired librarian-looking chick sitting at the table going, "Hello, how are you all doing? Hello. Well, I've noticed that before we start the meeting, that skirt's a little too short. I measured it. Let's bring that down about 6 more inches. The chest size, let's take that in just a tad." And they're going to say no, and then she's going to flash the massive amounts of money that come from her side of the table, and they're going to listen. And that's just how it is. And it's going to probably be the downfall of this industry, which sucks. Like, this is how they invest. They can't change the culture, so what do? They go with the money. And if there's one thing that they love over in Japan is money and profit. So yeah, it's sad. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's going to happen eventually. And it sucks. And there's not really anything we can do about it because it's just, as it becomes more popular, which is going to keep happening because you just can't get really good stories like this from the West anymore because of all the wokeness. It's just going to happen, and it sucks, but I don't know. Maybe there is something we can do about it. I don't know. Let me know in the comments below what you think the answer is to this. I'd like to hear from you. Also, if you would, please like, subscribe, share the video, and make sure you're still subscribed. Hit that notification bell, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace. Also, if you want to help support the channel, check out my Teespring store. There's a link in the description. You can find some merchandise in there that you might want to check out.